Hello virtual pilots, I'm Andre Celesti and welcome to the second edition of our Hip Talk Show, where we pick up a subject and bring important members of our community to discuss it. You can join us too, more information in the video description on how to do that. The subject for today is DCS hardware and peripherals. We will discuss our preferences when it comes to immersion and key bindings alongside future improvements, what I consider a minimum setup for a proper experience in DCS world and more. And we try to discover what other possibilities are out there. For example, I started DCS using a Thrustmaster T-Flight HOTAS X and using the Flaming Cliffs 3 aircrafts. I understood very fast that just the keyboard and the HOTAS I had wasn't enough. I added an Xbox One controller thinking it will do the job. It didn't. For some reason, don't ask why. I added another extra HOTAS called the Black Widow by Speedlink. Of course, it didn't do the trick. I also used the random steering wheel pedals for the rudder. That one kinda did the job, but as we started our YouTube channel, I upgraded to the Thrustmaster Warthog with the same old steering wheel pedals. Things are better now. I'm also using TrackIR and a VR Samsung Odyssey headset, the first edition. Things are good, preparation is key, and we all know it. Today, we have more members from our community, and the first one on the line is Rhinox. How are you, Rhinox?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
Yeah, it's a great day to do one of our shows. So, what was your first joystick that you ever used with a flight simulator?
Oh god, I can't even remember it. I was so young then. Like, Falcon 4.0 was still like the it simulator, so I can't even remember. It probably still plugged in with like the old-fashioned like 24-pin plug, like looked like an old monitor plug. I can't remember which one it was.
So you played Falcon 4?
Way back when, yeah.
That's great. And what is your current setup that you're using with DCS?
Right now I'm using essentially dual VKB Gladiator NXTs. I ordered the Space Combat Edition one because I also play Star Citizen, and then I ordered the Omni Throttle, which is essentially just a joystick on an angle that you can lock out the left and right axis and just use it as a straightforward throttle and take springs out and it stays in place like a throttle, so it's just a modular joystick.
That's really cool. I think I know that one, and it's really smooth. Do you have some control over that, or how?
Yes, the bottom plate comes off easily, which is 4 screws, and inside of it you'll have access to 2 springs that you can change out to adjust the tension for the return to center, or you can remove them entirely and have it stay in any position you leave it, so you can technically set your joystick up as a helicopter collective as well. Then there's clutches inside of it that you can adjust with the screwdriver that comes with the joystick, and you can tighten it up, you can loosen it up, and it's just really a good setup inside. It's real easy to figure out how to adjust it, real easy to put the springs in and out. They give you like a little metal wire to help pull the springs. VKB does a good job with setting you up with everything you need to get the joystick into the configuration that you want.
That's awesome and sounds really good. That means that basically for your Star Citizen needs, you also have a good setup there.
Correct, because I can just switch the throttle to be a second joystick and go with HOSAS instead of HOTAS. I do also have IL-2 Sturmovik, but I haven't really played it all that much since I got everything set up to start playing DCS. So DCS has been pretty much my go-to as of recent. I'm still waiting for the next patch on Star Citizen, and then I might consider playing that again.
You and me both. I understand the feeling. So yeah, back on DCS, what type of modules do you fly?
Currently I'm just flying the A10C and C2 depending on which server I'm on, and then I also fly the FA-18 Hornet. I do have helicopters, but I'm not currently flying them. I'm still essentially learning to fly them. I do have the Apache, I've got the Mi-8, the Hind, I've got the Huey.
Oh, quite a collector.
Yeah, I've got a few of them. I figured get them while they were on sale during all the sales, so when I want to fly them, I have them to fly them, and I don't have to worry about a 2-week trial or if I'm in the window or have to recycle.
Any planned additions to your setup that you have right now?
Currently not, because I'm pretty much where I want for equipment. I do eventually want to also pick up the Warthog throttle, just so I can have an actual dual throttle and have the extra switches and stuff, because the Omni throttle is great, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
It just it's a single throttle. So when I'm flying dual engine planes, I'm running everything on a single throttle. So like when I'm in my A10 and take hits, I actually have to throttle down both engines to turn off my damaged engine, then throttle back up in order to tell the game to put the engine from idle to off. And then I already have rudder pedals, so I don't have to order them. I have the VKB T rudder pedals, and they're great. The tension's a little bit light on it, but because you can keep your foot on it, I just use my other foot to tension it, and they're real precise for what I need them for.
And now the big question for you. Do you use a TrackIR?
Yes and no. I don't have actual TrackIR yet. What I use is I use AI Track alongside OpenTrack, and AI Track essentially is just face tracking, and then OpenTrack converts it to the TrackIR data, and then DCS just sees it as normal TrackIR, even though it's face tracking. So I have the same ability as TrackIR, just not using the actual TrackIR.
That sounds really cool. Do you dogfight?
I don't do like PvP dogfighting. I do occasionally dogfight against the NPCs when I'm flying on Levant. But a lot of the times it's more just me getting into a circle fight with them and eventually getting behind them and winning the fight. It does allow me to still keep eyes on the enemy, because lose sight, lose the fight.
Indeed, that is correct. Anything else you would like to mention before we let you go?
The only other thing that I use is I have a set of the Thrustmaster Cougar MFD panels, which allows me to interact with my A10 and my Hornet a lot easier. It essentially keeps me hands-off mouse and keyboard, with the exception of putting my engines to idle. So I can just reach over and hit the buttons like I'm pushing it on the MFD in the plane, and can tell the game to switch to my weapons that way, and makes everything flow a lot quicker.
Indeed, they are very useful. My question is, how do you have them mounted?
Right now they're just sitting on my desk in between my two joysticks, so they're not in like the actual position they would be if I had like a sim pit or anything like that. When I'm at full throttle, I just have to move my hand over pretty much a full hand's width, and I'm right in front of the panel. And then the same thing for my right hand panel, it's right next to my joystick. Because I don't have a sim pit or anything like that, my throttle and stick are right on my desk. My keyboard's on a small table to my side, and then I got the two MFDs right there in the middle. So when I'm flying my Hornet, I've got one of the extra up-down buttons set to switch between air to air, air to ground, and then the other one's set for my master switch, so I don't even have to use my mouse to turn that on. It definitely streamlines everything.
That sounds fantastic. You actually made me think about a few things here.
For the listeners who are listening, these prices are USD, but the sticks are a mid-range value stick. You're not looking at $300 for a stick. The sticks are $165 for the premium edition Starfighter, and then the Omni throttle is $175. And then your pedals are looking, I think they were $215. So they're not super expensive, but they're not super cheap at the same time. So if people are looking into a mid-range stick, I definitely, my opinion, just because they're the only ones I use, I suggest VKB, because it's cheap. They do what they do. It doesn't feel cheap. It actually feels solid. It's a good stick. And this is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form.
Top tip from Rhinox, our first Patreon here at How I Play. I think your setup is quite good for a virtual pilot. Is that correct?
Yep. Definitely has everything a fighter pilot could need right at their fingertips.
And just to add to that, what can you tell us about your rudder pedals?
So I did mention that I have the VKB T rudder pedals. It's their Mark IV editions. When I got it, it actually says it's the official pedal of DCS. So it seems like it might be a commonly used pedal.
Any toe brakes on them?
Nope. That's the only drawback, is they don't have toe brakes. But what they have that's a really good benefit is if you are tall, or if you have a real limited space underneath your desk and you don't have a lot of room, the movement of the pedals is moving just your ankles up and down. It's more like you feel like you're more stepping down on a pedal versus pushing something forward and having your knees coming up and hitting your desk. The rudder pedals are actually all metal construction, so they're really solid too.
And let me know if you can adjust any spring tension.
Yes. I don't know if the previous generations came with extra springs. The one that I came with only has a single spring inside of it, but you can pull out the internal mechanism and adjust it to a higher tension spring. It didn't really feel too much of a difference, but by having your foot on the pedal, you can kind of create your own tension, and I haven't really had an issue with how light of a press it is, but at the same time, for the low movement, it feels okay.
Well, that's great. Rhinox, you have quite a nice setup over there, and you know what you need and you know what you gotta do with it.
As G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle.
There you go. Perfect. So Rhinox, thank you so much for joining us today and taking your time to share your setup with us. I really hope you're going to have the time to join up in the future as well.
Yeah, I'll try and be here as often as I can, and thanks for having me, and it's great everything you're putting out, so why not help out the community?
Well, until next time, fly safe.
You too. Have a good one.
And our next caller is Tiger12 Delta. Welcome to the Hip Talk Show. So tell me, what do you use to fly in DCS world?
I use VKB Gladiator NXT Evo with TWCS, which is a throttle that comes with a 3600M joystick.
So another VKB one. And which was the first joystick that you used to fly in DCS?
My first stick that I used to fly is the Logitech Extreme 3D Pro.
Yeah, it is quite a common choice at the first time in DCS. And do you use any tracking devices like TrackIR?
Yes, I use D-Link Clip, which is similar to TrackIR, but it's not as good as TrackIR, so I'm getting TrackIR soon.
So you are planning to upgrade it?
Yeah, I ordered one. It is arriving soon.
And any thoughts on rudder pedals?
My reviews from the Thrustmaster rudder pedals is that the TFRB are so small, like there's no much space between my feet, so I end up selling it. I don't recommend it.
Interesting. And what do you fly in DCS?
Most of the time, I fly the A10C2 tank killer.
That is great. The Warthog. Any other future upgrades that you would like to do to your setup?
Not far from our VR soon.
That is a good choice to aim at in the future. Perfect. Any other thing that you find it unique in your setup and you like a lot?
One thing that I really like about the VKB is the fact that I fly the 10 too much and I need a 2-stage trigger, and that's a big relief for me for VKB.
Okay, Delta, it was really nice hearing from you and explaining your setup to us. I wish you a good day and hope to hear you very soon here back on the channel.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was Delta, one of our community members. We talk from time to time here on the Discord. And our next caller is the community manager of the TGFB server, Tobias. Welcome to the Hip Talk Show. What do you use to fly in DCS world?
I mean, I fly a lot of modules currently, including F-18, F-16, A-10, whatchamacallit, even some Cold War planes like the MiG-21. But my first module was the F-18, just for the multi-role purposes.
And why is that?
I was really debating about the F-16 and F-18 just because they're both amazing planes. I currently both own them, so yeah. But the main point kind of is, like, the F-16 is more an air superiority fighter. F-18 not as much, but it is really good still in air-to-air engagements.
So what type of joysticks do you use in DCS world?
I personally use the X56 Logitech. All around great stick, although it has its issues like the USB and ghost inputs time to time. But usually that is not really much of a problem for me. I also use VR, TrackIR, and have a pretty beefy system to run DCS.
Oh, so you are using TrackIR.
Lately, I am using TrackIR a bit more than VR, although VR is amazing, but it has its issues.
Yeah, we all know about it. Trust me. Well, one day, and the latest patch just dropped as we are recording this, but I still didn't see nothing over there. We'll need to discuss it a bit later. Now, tell me, are you using any rudder pedals?
Yes, that was a later. Don't really like to call it an investment, but to be honest, we all want to call it like that for DCS. But I later upgraded from a twist stick to also the Logitech rudder pedals for a little bit more than a Thrustmaster's one, because I like to have my feet a bit more separated than those narrow Thrustmaster. The main reason why I even got the rudder pedal was just for the Apache. Like, it is damn hard to use a twist stick or any other inputs for the Apache.
Well, let's put it that way. You may cheat yourself of not using rudder pedals for a jet, though I don't recommend it, but when it comes to helicopters, the anti-torque are required in order to make it out alive.
Yeah, I mean, I have flown for quite a bit with Apache without any rudder pedals. I used one of the dials on my throttle. It was actually pretty manageable, but it is really getting used to, and it's a bit janky, as you might expect.
Any future improvements or additions that you would like to add to your setup?
I mean, I'm personally kind of looking like a very niche and I think really potential market currently for new sticks. They might be on the higher end, but for example, like a lot of racing setups. I personally do not do racing, but I know a lot of have like force feedback, which I would really enjoy for better prices within DCS or in general the flight market.
So you would invest in a force feedback joystick, is that correct?
I would consider it because honestly, how good these new premium high-end sticks currently are, it really lacks sometimes the feedback, I think. I never used one of them, just for disclaimer, but I personally think force feedback would be a giant selling point for affordable, hopefully, and good sticks.
Then my question is, what's your opinion on ButtKickers or sim motion platforms?
For most of these extra products, how I like to call it, like including the ButtKicker and motion, etc., I really think VR is kind of a necessity. Like, if you're already gonna spend that much for those type of things, VR, although with its issues in VR, like we all know,
Yeah, they are.
might be a really good option.
Keeping in our topic, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, one thing I would like to add is usually in DCS, the sticks that you buy are most likely not really that plug and play like you most of the times hope. There is, of course, alternatives of just going to the DCS page and download some user files with the documentation and already some keybinds.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wish maybe the manufacturer or DCS itself had better presets instead of like real basics that they just copy and paste to all sticks, to be honest.
Apart from the default ones, I know that even our community is trying to add on the user file section, and that's a thing.
These type of things I really like to have first party support than third party support.
Well, things are moving rapidly and we're getting more and more every year from DCS, and who knows where the future will take us. You know, we need a lot of patience and the future will be bright.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
I really see a bright future for DCS. I think we all do.
Yeah, well,
And I really
because
hope they really succeed.
this is because we believe in the project and it's our passion as well. Okay, Tobias, it was really nice to have you finally on the show, hearing from you. And for those of you that are listening, the community at TGFB is a great one. They're always looking for new members. They do dogfights and certain type of tournaments, also training. And
For a brief summary, we try to do weekly missions, just general missions. You're always free to join. It's fully driven by our community. It's all free, of course. We already have 200 members and even reach out beyond DCS. We also are trying to improve the armor experience, Armor 3 squad. And if you are having difficulties with DCS, including keybinds, including learning modules, we're always free to help in our server.
thank you, Tobias, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you. I'll have a good day.
And now, before we move on to our next caller, let's hear from our sponsor. VR Rock is offering something we deem right for our community: blue light protection and specialized prescription lenses for your VR headsets. Yes, you heard me right. It's a problem I encountered ever since I started using my VR headset. My friends who wear prescription glasses couldn't enjoy flying in DCS as my headset couldn't safely fit without taking the glasses off. VR Rock will manufacture the lenses according to the prescription information you provide, fitting most VR headsets currently on the market, and will ship it worldwide with the benefit of a tax-free policy. They also include non-prescription eye protection lenses. If you use our Hip Games discount code, you will receive 5% on any order and support our channel in the process. Link is in the video description. And our next caller is Jakes. Thank you for joining. Tell me, what type of setup do you use for DCS World?
Hey, thanks for having me. Currently I'm on pretty much a full Thrustmaster setup at the moment. So got the Warthog flight stick with the throttle, got the F-16 MFDs. I've got 4 of them because I mainly fly the Hornet, so you kind of need that center one at the bottom as well. And just a Logitech flight panel that I'm running through DCS flight panels to be able to actually speak to DCS.
So you're using the Thrustmaster Warthog. For how long do you have it?
So I've had the flight stick and throttle for 3 years. And I just got the TPR rudder pedals about 6 months ago.
And how do they feel?
Absolutely amazing. So I actually have a bit of private aviation background. So I did a little bit of private piloting many years ago, and these just have the right feel to them. So it's quite wonderful.
Well, this is not the first time I hear this, so that's definitely a confirmation of how good they are. And how are the toe brakes?
They are brilliant. They work extremely well. It's very adjustable, so you can really, depending on your setup, like for example, I've got a home built sim pit, you could call it, a little bit of a do-all kind of pit. And with the angle of the seating in that, you can really adjust the toe brakes and the foot pieces to be in the perfect, most comfortable position you can for whatever setup you have. So yeah, they are exceptionally accurate as well.
Now, with all things said, do you have any plans to upgrade your setup?
I would love to get my hands on the Winwing Hornet throttle, but yeah, that's a big one. Because I really, like I said, I primarily fly the Hornet, but so that or the flight panels, maybe the MFD setup if I win the lottery or something, hopefully. But currently, yeah, to supplement button boxes, I've actually got a digital program that you can run on tablets and phones and that. And you make like a digital button box. And I'm using that currently. So I've got a couple of old phones and tablets that I've collected from family members and so on. And they just like little digital button boxes to finish off the simpet.
Do you use any TrackIR?
No. Unfortunately, TrackIR is like, to get it to where I am, it's going to cost more than my house repayment in a month. So I'm just using, the OpenAI and what's the program called?
OpenTrack?
OpenTrack, yes. I'm using that combination with a webcam. And yeah, I honestly wouldn't spend the money on TrackIR. This works so perfectly.
Have you ever used VR or have you ever tried VR in DCS?
I have never used VR in my life, unfortunately, but it is something I am extremely interested in.
So it's on the list over there in the future?
That's definitely on the list, yes.
And because you have the Thrustmaster, do you fly the 8NC?
Actually, the first jet I got for DCS was the Hornet, because growing up, all the games I played, I had the Hornet, and it's just always had a special place. So I got the Warthog setup, and then about a year after I got it, I got the Hornet stick, the Hornet grip from Thrustmaster. That is a game changer if you fly the Hornet. But I did recently pick up the 18 last year, November about. And yeah, I also picked up the Viper, but I must say the 18 is just magic. And I'm busy learning the Viper now, so...
Do you use the stick in the configuration for the Viper, like you hold it on the right-hand side?
So I tried using it on the side stick, but I've got a center stick set up with a 7.5 centimeter extension with a lighter spring from a guy, you've probably seen him on the forums, Sahaj. Guy's stuff is absolutely incredible, and so now trying to get used to the side stick with no extension, even with the softer spring, couldn't.
So you do recommend the extension then, yeah?
Definitely. Yeah, the extension is an absolute game changer. Like, I could not air-to-air refuel at all. Then I got the extension with the slightly softer spring. And it's just, you get so much more feel and so much more fine control over the jet with it.
Okay, so the extension, I need to add it on the list for Natasha.
And if there's one other thing I can recommend to you, if you have the Warthog throttle, as you said, from Delta Sim, they've got the slew upgrade. So that funny little nipple
You said nipple.
on the front of the throttle that's supposed to be your TGP controller.
Yeah.
It replaces that with an analog stick.
Yeah, I know about this one. It's not that much of a priority at this time for me, but I understand your recommendation. Thank you. Any problems with maintenance when it comes to your setup?
Actually, on the throttle, you've got that little increment decrease gray lever on the right-hand side. That's the only thing that's given me issues, because it's a known issue with them. It jitters. So as soon as you move it from either center full up or full down, if it's in between, it jitters. So you can't use it for like zoom or for your radar elevation. It's far too unstable.
Well, as it happens, I do use a cover for both my stick and throttle just to keep up the dust.
Yes, that Sahaj that does the springs and the extensions, I got the throttle and flight stick cover from him as well, because he does the covers depending on the length of extension you have and everything.
What's your opinion on the sim motion platforms or ButtKickers added to the system? Would you ever consider them?
I would sell a kidney. I'd sell both kidneys and a lobe of liver if I had to, if I could get my hands on it. I think that is absolutely incredible. I am going to do a bit of I'm going to jimmy my own kind of ButtKicker system. Saving up now for a nice 7.1 surround system for my Simpit. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to mount the sub to the back of the seat. It's not as, the fidelity isn't as great as something like a ButtKicker with the right software running it, but it's something. And it's going to work me out a lot less than getting a ButtKicker in.
That is a great idea. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the great videos, and it's always something to look forward to during the week. Really appreciate all the hard work you put in.
You are too kind. I wish you a good day and hope to hear from you in the future.
Yes.
So our next caller is Jigga from Wolfpack Community. Thank you for joining. Please tell me, what type of setup do you use for DCS World?
So I'm running pretty much a full Virpil setup, alpha stick. I have a long extension on the new CM3 base, which is very nice. I have a CM3 Virpil throttle, and I'm a big helicopter guy, so I run the Rotor Plus base, and I also have a left-handed alpha stick on that with a custom angle attachment to change the position. I'm running the Crosswind MFG rudders. I use a damper on those. I have a large main screen, is about 75 inches, and then I run a smaller screen that has my 3 exported MFDs. I do not use VR mostly.
So that I presume you're using TrackIR?
Yes, using TrackIR. I sit probably about 8 feet from the large screen, and it works pretty good.
And have you ever taken advantage of a wireless type of TrackIR clip?
I have a wireless sender, which I bought from a gentleman. What's the name of his company? I can't remember off the top of my head.
No, don't worry, it's not necessary. So how long did you take to set everything up?
Yeah, I took a lot of cues from, our local Wolfpack. A lot of the guys are probably, just as passionate about DCS as I am. And, I started with, just an entry-level Logitech setup, Logitech rudders and Logitech X52 joystick and throttle. And, once you get into the game and you're real serious about it, like, several hours a day, it becomes a little counterintuitive to have just those basic controls, and just following the cue from everybody in the community. Most of the people say, oh, buy this, and I bought those things and they worked out really well. Everything functions the way that you think it should, which is amazing. But it is a learning curve to get everything to work and everything to work together like a symphony. Really, it's just there's so many things that have to work together at the same time, which is a little tough for a lot of people getting into the game, because the game is already very technical.
We can all agree that DCS requires a big time sink. With support from the community, you can get very efficient in your setup and have a great time flying. Which leads me to my next question. Which is your favorite module?
I have a lot of the modules in DCS, and I think probably the top two are the AV-8B Harrier and the F-18 Hornet. And with the helicopters, the Apache is one of my most favorite of all time, and that and the KA-50 and the UH-1 Huey, those are also very enjoyable.
What plans do you have for the future of your setup?
Yeah, I have a simple, man-made cockpit right now. I would probably go to like a aluminum frame system next, and go more purposely built. And as the game gets the game runs better with DLSS and the multi-core upgrade, I might go to maybe a multi-screen setup, and VR maybe in the long future. It's not optimized enough, I think, for me right now. I prefer the high quality visuals and the high frame rates, so that's where I'm sitting right now.
As I ask this question for most of our guests today, what do you think about motion platforms or ButtKickers to be used with DCS?
Yeah, I actually run two ButtKickers in stereo, and it for helicopter flying, it's almost essential. Like, if you don't have it, you can't tell if you're going into VRS, and you can't tell if you're in ground effect. It's really, really fun experience. With the aircraft, you can feel the engines and the stutters. When you're pulling high G's, it's really fun to have. Motion sim platforms, I've looked at those. I would probably feel, and I probably won't go that route, because I feel like maybe it might be more of a workout, when you fly, and I probably wouldn't fly as much. And I prefer the comfortable experience. When I'm flying, I want to relax, and if I'm in a motion platform and it's throwing me around, I could only do that for so long, I think.
Any last thoughts that you would like to add before we finish up?
No, not really. I mean, I would probably just add that the Verpal is been a really good choice for me. I've also had several Wolfpack members use other systems like VKB and of course the Logitech Warthog. I mean, they're all really good systems, and you just have to find the thing that fits your budget, and I don't think you're really going to go wrong. It's but if you invest in a good system and DCS is one of your main hobbies, it's well worth it.
Thank you so much for joining our conversation today and sharing your experience and setup configurations for DCS World. Hope to hear from you in the future, and until next time, keep up the good fight over there at Wolfpack.
Thanks for having me.
And our last caller for today is our first community member that took his time to join me and test the Hind. Alaric, it's good to have you here, mate. How are you?
Hello, Andre. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Thank you for joining our Hip Talk show. Tell me, what do you use in your DCS setup?
Right, so for my setup, I actually have a Thrustmaster Warthog, along with the Thrustmaster pedals. I think it's the entry pedals.
And are you happy with it? Do you have it for a long time?
Oh, yes, I've had it about 2 years now, I think. Time flies. But yeah, I'm very happy with the throttle and stick itself. The pedals, while they're amazing for me and my purposes, they do have a few issues here and there, such as, the pedals being quite close together, so it is quite difficult to use in some scenarios, but it's brilliant for my purposes, I believe.
Well, if they suit your purpose, which is your favorite module that you like to use in DCS World?
That is a brilliant question, that. Now, that is a bit of an odd question, because I fly all of my modules quite a lot. So I don't actually stick to one particular module. Sorry.
You hear that, Edie? We have another collector here. And how useful are your pedals?
But pedals are incredibly useful for my helicopters. So that is the K50, the Huey, and the Apache. Especially the Apache. That thing is quite wild on the torque there. So pedals are extremely useful for flying those. But they're also quite useful for flying fixed wing aircraft, and they also give the extra immersion when you're flying them, or just like generally taxiing them around the ground. So having pedals, I think, is quite important, and especially because Thrustmaster Warthog doesn't have any sort of yaw built into it. Pedals are a must-have in that regard.
Because you understand the importance of the rudder pedals, have you ever thought about upgrading them?
I have actually. I've thought about it quite a few times. However, I just sort of wait until this either breaks or if I get back into DCS, because for now I've just been busy with university and life in general. So I've just been staying away from my PC. If I feel like I want to get back to DCS, especially with the Typhoon coming out, if that comes out, then I'll definitely get new pedals just because I'll be on my PC a lot more.
Do you have or use any other peripherals to make your life a bit more easy in DCS world?
Couple of things I'd say. First of all is I had a external numpad, and that is extremely useful for use as an ICP in certain modules. So, for example, the F-16, the F-18, the Apache even, extremely useful for typing things in really quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that helps here quite a lot instead of having to move my mouse about and click stuff. The second thing is a physical kneeboard, and whilst that may not seem like an obvious thing to make your life easier, it is, because you can actually quickly jot down coordinates and just memorize information, really, especially if you're on a coordinated squadron mission, for example.
Any other future improvements that you would like to do for your setup?
Well, I'm definitely looking at, like I said earlier, VR, but other than that, I'm also looking at potentially replacing the base to my Warthog stick, just because I've looked at the Verpal base, and it's sensor compatible. It'll be a brilliant upgrade, just to get that extra bit of help whilst flying, so I'm not having to clean my Warthog every now and then, because it does stick quite a lot sometimes. Also, the accuracy of the Verpal and the general handling of the Verpal is a lot superior from what I've seen and read. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely looking at.
Well, it was really nice having you here, Alaric, and I look forward in the future. We had a good talk here.
Brilliant talking to you.
Well, I'll make sure to let you know next time when we do this show again.
Brilliant, yeah. I definitely look forward to coming back in the future. Brilliant talking to you, Andre.
And that was our last caller, so we end the second edition of our Hip Talk show, a pre-recorded show that will be available for our Patreon supporters and special members to participate here on Discord. For more information on how to get in a future episode, check the video description. And that's it for today. A big thank you to my Hip crew that supports the channel with news and content. Thank you all for watching. Remember to leave us a like if you find the video informative, and subscribe to keep in touch with all the latest news on your favorite simulators and games. I am Andre Celesti, reminding you to fly safe, and I'll see you next time.